Today I'm talking to Elizabeth Sanjuan, a visual artist from Florida, USA, whose passion is to discover, through travel, the vast mosaic of people, lands and cultures that the world has to offer. Enjoy. Elizabeth, welcome. Welcome to Frames. So nice to have you here live. We have met, we have exchanged messages in the Frames Facebook group and so on. I have seen your images, but now you are here, on camera. So, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Tomas, for the platforms that you provide and for this opportunity.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, my pleasure, my honor to have you. Wonderful photography. We are here to talk about your photography, as you can imagine, right?
Yes.
You sent me a note. You describe yourself as a visual artist whose passion is to discover, through travel, the vast mosaic of people, lands, and cultures that the world offers. So I can imagine you travel a lot with your camera. I mean, I can see it from your images. How often do you travel? When did it all start, this passion, and what is it all about for you?
So seriously, traveling for the last 45 years, maybe. I used to work for the airlines, so that's what got my fix on travel.
It helps.
And then in 2010, I decided to take up photography more seriously and finally took one class with Arthur Meyerson in Santa Fe just to kind of experiment my passion for travel and photography.
And so it was simultaneous moment. I mean, photography passion starting and immediately travel photography, or you experimented maybe with different genres or directions?
Always with travel photography. I used to be an artist, but now I can only pick up pastels and charcoals when the spirit moves me, I like to say.
Okay.
And then I found photography easier, right? It's just you pick up a camera, you go out, you see something visually stimulating and you click. So travel has always been there. And then photography, just giving the opportunity mainly for my family to see places that they would never be able to go to. And then it just developed from there.
Yeah. And this background in, you are painting, drawing?
Yes.
This background, or I mean, you are still doing it, as I understand,
right?
Occasionally, right? So
I do.
Does it influence? Do you think it like directly in some way influence your way of seeing and composing your images?
I do. I think referencing back to painters that I love and just visual imagery in general definitely affect and are in my photography, the way I photograph.
And now, so I can see also again from your images, you have visited like, I don't know how many locations it has been already.
99 countries.
99 countries. Wow. Yeah. That's a nice number. So what's the 100? What's the number 100 coming?
I don't know. I keep on going back to the same countries and different areas, but I definitely have a goal of surpassing 100.
Yeah, well, it's almost there.
Yeah, almost. This year for sure.
Okay, 99 countries. Do you have any clear, preferences when it comes to locations? Your favorite places to photograph?
As I get older, I think I love the peacefulness and unexplored areas a little more. Mm-hmm. So as long as it's not heavily trafficked, not a very touristy place, I've always been attracted to those cultures that are still not westernized, let's say. I find them very attractive. I love connecting with people, even though there's the barrier of language maybe, but you still can make that connection with people. I mean, I just love that. So yeah, I think that's my favorite.
This was actually one of my questions, for later, because I am looking at your photographs. You sent 25 my way, images. And in this set you sent me, there is not so many actually images, including humans, I mean people, right? It's rather maybe landscapes, exactly quiet kind of areas, some animals, right? Or is it just this set you sent me? Because you just said you love connecting with people in those areas. Do you also, what's the balance between non-human kind of photographs and those including them in the pictures? What's your preference here?
Well, it's difficult to say. I think I feed off of different things. I think the environment for me is incredibly important. I love being out in nature. I love the solitude, the peacefulness. Being able to get grounded with Mother Earth for me is very important. There are several books that will say that, nature, being in forest, actually improve your health. And I feel that connectivity when I see an animal or just walking peacefully through the forest and just admiring leaves or whatever it may be. It just makes me feel, I mean, if you took up my heart rate or something, I'm sure you could tell by the way where I am by my heart rate. It does something for me.
Mm-hmm. Is this kind of the message you are trying to, to spread through your images, exactly, caring, and taking care of those still untouched places, I mean, we are doing so many bad things to the planet, right? Is this something you're trying to convey?
Absolutely. I mean, I think people are now catching on and governments are catching on now. There's a whole movement to reforest areas and cities, especially in the US, that have been completely deforested. There's a whole movement towards this. And it doesn't matter where I go. It could be the most remote place in the world. And I find pollution, litter, plastic, it doesn't matter where. I could be 3 days out to sea and there's some, image of a human footprint there. And for me, it's how do you balance both? I mean, how do we take care of Mother Earth? And I always get infuriated that we spend so much money exploring Mars and the moon and everything else when we have no clue as to what we have and the resources that we have on Earth. Mm-hmm. And we can't survive anywhere else. So why aren't we taking care of it?
Yeah. Did you find some venues, when it comes to, showcasing your photography and exactly, kind of amplifying this message, through exhibitions, books, publications? Do you have those places?
So I have been working on it. I've exhibited in Texas and Arizona and Barcelona. There's a book, hopefully, that will be published collectively with some other artists in December. So definitely working on different projects and with other photographers to how do we get this message out there?
Yeah. Well, and then again, looking at your images, definitely, next to the message you are trying to spread, there is, of course, also purely visual, artistic, appeal to some beautiful images. What do you think makes, you produce many landscapes, right? What is the main difficulty when it comes to producing an appealing landscape image? I mean, there is so many photographs, millions of them, right? From all possible locations. What does it make it for you? What's a good landscape photograph?
For example, with my Hokkaido work, it's traveling to Hokkaido in the deep winter. It's traveling to isolated places where there's either the birds or imagery that I can, put on my snowshoes, my 5 layers of clothes and schlep out with gear and try to capture that peacefulness, the resilience of nature in deep winter, things like that. There has to be some kind of connection, whether it calls to you because of the peacefulness or the environment itself. I think it's difficult to say how people connect to different images. It's also, varied and it's hard to say what's going to really appeal to somebody. I mainly do it for myself. I'm not trying to please other people. It's what I'm drawn to and what makes me feel something inside.
So when standing there, like when walking through a desert in Africa, probably have been there as well.
Yeah.
It's all amazing, but do you get this particular very clear impulse when okay, that's it, I have to take a photograph? It's
absolutely
some kind of juxtaposition of elements in the scene, light.
It's lighting usually. It's very early morning before the sun. I'm out and trying to get to the destination way before the sunrise, then scoping out my area. And then usually if I'm driving along and something calls my attention, I tell my guide, hey, stop, get out. Okay. Sometimes no snowshoes, just try to make it to the point and photograph. Because there is obviously, as photographers, we're stimulated by so much. But then there's that one special moment that you see and you go, okay, that's it.
Yeah. No, wonderful. I chose two, particular images from your portfolio. I would like to talk a little bit more in depth about. So one is exactly from Hokkaido. It's two, what are they called? White cranes?
Red crown cranes.
I mean, amazing scene. I'm looking at it right now here on the side. So, but this frame, I can imagine, required unless you were extremely lucky, like hundreds or thousands of attempts of frames to capture them in this perfect symmetry kind of dancing pose. Tell us a little bit more how this came
Luckily,
to
not
life.
hundreds of thousands because it was snowing like mad. I mean, you could tell that there's just snow coming
Yeah,
down, incredible. And there's about 300 photographers to the left and to the right of me. It's an
okay, so
area.
one of those places which are not necessarily really untouched.
That's right. It's an area actually where these birds were almost virtually extinct, and it was a group of school children and a farmer that brought these birds back to life. So they do come to this one area because they know in the winter they are being fed. So of course the photographers found out about it and they're there. But as the snow was coming down and it's getting colder and colder, obviously people leave, get frustrated. Once you're with the birds, you learn their patterns, their rhythm, they mirror each other, they're courting each other. So it's pretty easy to not say capture the image because you want them isolated from the other 100 birds that are there also. So it takes a lot of patience because there are several birds and they're all trying to capture a mate or bring attention to a mate. So it's just patience and the luck, really.
What was the camera you're using? I mean, it must be also relatively quick, right? When it comes
to... so it's a Sony A1.
It's Sony A1, okay.
Yeah, and it had a 1.4 teleconverter on it.
Okay. No, absolutely stunning shot, and also not the easiest one in terms of exposure. We know it because of the snow. Probably you had to, overexpose a little bit, or maybe, working on it.
No, not really. I don't really know a lot about Photoshop. I know virtually nothing. And Lightroom, I just basically import, adjust the light a little bit, and that's it. What you see in the camera is what you get. I call myself.
The skills are the skills, the images speak for themselves. So wonderful image. You know how to take such photographs and speaks volumes. Let's take the second one. I want to feature. It's an image of 5 little boys. I don't know what the location is. You can tell me they are standing behind this blue kind of gate, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful shot. I mean, I love it in terms of composition, just the expression of them, the curiosity in their eyes and everything. I mean, just one of those images that really drags you in as you are in the scene immediately. So if you could tell us just, a little bit about this one.
Sure. So this is in Lamu, Kenya. It's an island that's off the coast of Kenya. It's no vehicles, so you get there by boat. And it's very remote. It's a predominantly Muslim-based village. It's very set in its time. It's not very developed. And it was during COVID. So they weren't used to tourists walking around. And I was just walking, getting a feel of the village, seeing how the buildings, the beautiful Moorish architecture, very white. The streets are still sandy. They're not paved roads. So it's very primitive, let's say. But the school children were on their way into class, and you could see they have their little masks, some of them hanging.
Yep.
And they were curious to see me walking down one of these alleyways. And
this
was
just recently.
Right?
Sorry, this was just recently during the pandemic, right?
This is 2020, yes. So it was just.
Okay. And this is the school building.
Yeah, that's the school building. So they're going into school. They saw me making the turn, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, there's a woman with a camera. Let's go see."
Did you have any kind of interaction then with them? How?
No, we just smiled.
No language.
No language. Just smiled and laughed at each other, and an innocent moment captured.
Were you able to show them the image later, or
no,
they just ran away?
They were just too shy. So usually I do if they're a little bit less afraid or unshy. Maybe I'll show them the image, and they all love it and want more. But it was time for school, so they did well.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Okay, I want to ask you about one last image, if you remember this one, because this is something completely else, completely different. It's called Marty. It's like a shot of a person with the angel wings, kind of illuminated. This is something completely different here happening. It's not travel, right? So I would like to maybe show also this image because it's something else.
Yeah.
What's this project here? What's the image?
So that was one of my first photo projects. And I was quickly turning, well, a few years from then, I was turning 50. And I thought, my mentor at the time was Arthur Meyerson, and he said, take a self-portrait of yourself. And I couldn't take a self-portrait. There was always something wrong. My face didn't look good. My arm looked fat. Something was, off. And I was like, if I'm always picking myself apart as a woman that I don't look well or not presentable, how do fellow women feel about being photographed and self-body positivity? And so I decided to do a project and photograph 50 women. And I did it in 3 different platforms, one with a word, I am, and then on an 8x10 piece of paper, they had to pose with it nude and pick their word that signified where they were at on the journey. Then I did the image that you're talking about, which is superimposed with a projector, and we picked patterns that they enjoyed. And again, they're nude, but they had the choice to reveal as much or as little of themselves as they wanted. And then the third image was just completely nude, and again, posing them in a way where they felt comfortable being naked in front of me. It ended up that I wanted 49 women and then myself as 50 as I was turning 50 as this project developed.
Okay, I see.
I did 150 women, and I still have a list of women that still want to continue and do the project. I think because they heard it was so empowering for women to feel comfortable in front of the camera, naked, and just coming to accept that it's okay to be whatever they are at that time. That really, we don't have to follow the norms of society to be a certain way.
Oh, wonderful. It's one of those, examples of, how many different, purposes and stories photography can support and, and encourage and so on. Is this series available on your site or online somewhere?
It is on my website, yeah.
Okay, so I'll make sure to link to this project as well. Elizabeth, thank you so much. I mean, fascinating. So it's not only travel, as I can see. Any other projects you're working on right now, like smaller projects?
I have 3 more projects that I'm working on. I'm working on a small towns project in Colorado. So it's visiting 150 towns that are smaller than 300 in population. So I'm doing the photography. My husband's doing the writing. We have 4 books that are mock books that we're hopefully presenting to the Historical Museum in Colorado. So we're finishing that up. I'm also working on another project with my grandmother's poetry. She was a PhD in pharmaceuticals in 1930 in Cuba, which was unheard of for women. But she wrote incredible, beautiful poetry. So I'm pairing my photography with her poetry. And then I'm just continuing on finishing my Hokkaido work, and there's a couple other things that I have in the works.
Wow, I feel there's quite a few artists in the family, so it's wonderful that you guys can collaborate and create projects together.
It is.
My father writes. I mean, he's not a poet per se. I mean, he writes for, and always he's bugging me. We should be doing finally something together.
You should.
Yeah. So you definitely inspire me now. To get back to him on this story.
Oh, absolutely.
No, wonderful. Elizabeth, thank you so much. I wish you all the very best with all those projects. Be safe traveling. I mean, next destination you said, is it not fixed yet?
Not fixed yet.
So we will be waiting for this number 100.
For the update, the number 100.
Thank you so much. We'll be linking for everything. And see you on Frank's somewhere.
Thank you so much, Tomas.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.